The following program was recorded at Emerald Hall in Boston. I'm pleased to welcome Supply Chain Brain Editor-in-Chief, Russell Goodman.
India, impossible challenge or incredible opportunity? Well, joining us to speak about that today is Jim van Leenen, CEO and President of Flash Global Logistics. Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Russell.
Jim, I think it's fair to say that many U.S.-based companies today are finding India to be a very, very attractive market. At the same time, I think it's probably fair to say that many of them are experiencing a degree of trepidation about entering that market. I wonder, do you agree? And if so, what do you think are the reasons for that trepidation?
First of all, compliance and the tax regulations in India are indeed very complex, and consultants and preparation is required in order to understand what type of approach is required for India to be successful. Secondly, the infrastructure. The infrastructure in India is as such that the throughput in, for instance, the ports in Chennai and Mumbai is stagnated because of the lack of sufficient infrastructure in India. Thirdly, the movement of goods within India due to a very complex VAT tax structure within the states. And fourthly, the requirement of setting up an after-sales service capability, which can be very challenging in India. Just to elaborate on some of these points, we found that understanding the tax code in India, working with consultants in India is extremely important, not only to understand how to clear customs in India, but to understand how to declare the goods in order to get the most advantageous tax brackets that are available. We have customers where we literally have been able to save millions of dollars in taxes based on imports. Secondly, we talked about the infrastructure in India. The infrastructure in India is, to a large degree, underdeveloped, especially when you compare it to other emerging markets such as China. For instance, the trucking industry, largely fragmented, mainly regional carriers, and it is close to impossible to reach all of India within 2 or 3 days. For instance, the courier companies. We expect here in the United States, UPS and FedEx to deliver anywhere in the United States within 24 hours. In India, there is only one carrier that is a full freight carrier. Every other courier company uses the belly space of the passenger planes. That obviously has priority issues, and in reality in India, there are 22 to 25 cities that can be serviced with 24-hour delivery next business day, bearing in mind that in India next business day means delivery until 5:30 p.m. Outside of these 22 to 25 cities, basically the delivery takes place second and third day and is considered multimodal, using a combination of plane into the major trade lanes and truck in order to get it to final destination. So the challenges within India for trucking as well as for courier are significant. And at this stage, it is important for an American company to understand in which part of India they can provide 4-hour service next business day in order to set up the right SLA, service level agreement structure for their clients. The third part is the movement of goods within India. There are 28 states in India, and each state has their own VAT structure. The federal government is working with the states in order to move towards one federal GST system, which will make doing business with India considerably more attractive. Yet they have been working on this for 2 years. Every state has to approve that new system, and the expectations are that it may take another number of years before such a system, federal GST system, will be in place. And then the last point is setting up an after-sales service capability. In most countries that consist of a number of services that are taken for granted, In India, it is not just sufficient to have one distribution center and believe that you can provide the service to all your customers in India. It is more complex than that.
I want to follow up on that point that you just mentioned about after-sales service. How important do you think it is to have after-sales services for the companies that are selling finished goods with a high cost of downtime?
The after-sales services is first of all a requirement for, I would say, any of our customers, since they offer after-sales services in every country they do business. Therefore, India cannot be an exception. The level of service is simply required. Secondly, there is a more strategic issue. When finished products are sold and you do not, as an exporter in the United States, provide the after-sales service capability, most of the time it will be very difficult to close a deal if you can't prove that you can service the product. And last but not least, it is strategic from the perspective that when you do have an after-sales service capability and customers are satisfied, it drives brand loyalty and therefore repeat purchases of your finished products. So having an after-service sales service capability is absolutely strategically required for our customers.
What I'm hearing is that it's indispensable to have that capability, but let's talk about barriers. What are the hurdles to establishing that type of service?
Good question. In most countries, Russell, the after-sales service capabilities are existent often as an end-to-end solution. Sometimes a customer will have to find a various service provider and tie it together as a system. In India, it's very difficult to find an end-to-end solution. And what does it mean, an end-to-end solution? That means not only to have the capability to store in a distribution center, to offer 24 hours or second or third day delivery, but also to have a network of forward stocking locations based on which you have the ability to deliver within 4 hours. Then on the reverse side, asset recovery, repair, testing, having the field technicians and the parts under one roof, the scrapping of the parts. The repair within country obviously is very important, often set up when there is sufficient volume within the country. So setting it up, having one system, tying that together, giving you full visibility to your inventory and the quality of the delivery and the recuperation of parts within the country is extremely important, and setting it up is a very difficult task in India, but there are solutions.
Final question then. We've established that it is imperative to have this kind of capability in India. We've determined that there are a number of very difficult obstacles to doing this sort of thing. So if I'm a U.S.-based company, if I'm running a company that is interested in establishing and setting up after-sales capability in India, what do you recommend? What do I do?
First and foremost, prepare. Understand how you want to approach the market. Is it a dealer network, or would you prefer to work with a company, a mid-market company that has the ability to import and do the distribution on your behalf? And there are pros and cons for each of these approaches. Secondly, work with consultants. Understand what the tax codes are, understand how to import, what the requirements are, especially when it comes to critical parts, because you need an importer of record. There is no importer for missing critical parts. Therefore, the company, the service company that you deal with, has to have the ability to perform the importer of record services. And these are the two requirements in terms of upfront. Secondly, find an end-to-end solution. It is very difficult in India to, as an American exporter, try to find a service provider for each of these services and try to tie this together with a system. An end-to-end solution that I've just described with all the service elements tied together with a system, extremely important. Evaluate the potential service provider that you work with in India based on what they have done in other emerging markets. There are countries like Brazil. Have they been very successful in a country like Brazil? And chances are they will make it scalable in other emerging markets. The system capability, obviously extremely important. What type of visibility? When you put hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars of inventory into a country like India, you need to know on a real-time basis where your inventory is and also your customer satisfaction elements, of course. So there is a complexity of elements that you look at, and maybe last but not least, one would think, well, if I look at a large multinational, then I'm safe, they will have the capabilities. First of all, they don't have the end-to-end solution. Secondly, if they offer you some parts of the end-to-end solution, they often put you in a straitjacket based on the service standards that they use, whereas a mid-market company will be able to offer you a flexible solution that is adjusted to the needs of the American exporter. And I believe in a country like India that is evolving, the flexibility is an absolute prerequisite in order to grow your business in India and not deal with a straitjacket type of service offering that may become an impediment of the growth of your business in India. So preparation, looking for the right partner, evaluating the companies that are doing business in India in order to make sure that you have a true end-to-end solution with the flexibility that you require in order to grow.
Advice based on having boots on the ground and working with people in country. Highly valuable. Jim, thank you so much for meeting with us today.
You're welcome.
This is Jim van Leenen, Flash Global Logistics, and speaking with us today about the opportunity in establishing after-sales service in India. Thank you for watching.